Howdy, y'all. I know this video is going to be coming out a little bit late when compared to when the episode was released, but I was busy with finals and moving out of the dorms for winter break, so I have an excuse. But anyways, I decided I wanted to talk about some Star Wars again, and luckily for me, Skeleton Crew is currently going on. Now, going into this show, I did not have high hopes for it based off the trailers. I really can't put my finger on it, but something about the trailers just did not look great to me. Might have been the human-looking neighborhood throwing me off, I don't know. But with that said, even with my low expectations going into it, Skeleton Crew has definitely surprised me so far. The acting feels genuine, the story is simple yet done well, the characters are good so far, and the show is just pretty fun. But with all that said, let's get into the recap of the first episode. The story begins with text letting us know that this takes place in the New Republic timeline and that piracy is quite prevalent in some spaces of the galaxy at this time. We then get a scene of a pirate ship boarding a freighter of some sorts. The freighter's crew starts defending their ship from the pirates, and geez, that guy just ate that shot to the eye. The pirates push through the ship with relative ease, and then the pirate captain interrogates a member of the crew to get him to open up the vault that is within the freighter. When he does not cooperate, they begin to cut into the vault, and the captain addresses his crew, mentioning that they are on a string of bad luck. But this job makes up for it. Once they open the vault, there is only one credit left within it, and then the entire crew turns on the captain and they begin to take him down. We then go to the main character Wim, playing with some figures of a Jedi and Sith. He also has a wooden lightsaber toy he keeps with him as well. We get to see that Wim lives with his dad, who is super stressed out and definitely seems a bit detached. The first thing we get from Wim's dad is that he has to be working and won't be home much. He gives Wim some lunch money and then tells him not to be late at school. Wim then runs down with his lightsaber, just letting his imagination run wild until he runs into his friend, Neil. Wim and Neil have a fake lightsaber fight, and I honestly love this scene. Definitely just felt like kids being kids. That and I relate to being one of the nerdy kids doing silly stuff. Anyways, once they're on the bus... Speeder bus? Tram? I'm just gonna say bus. Wim looks out the window and sees two girls on a speeder that dart off the road and out into the woods. Neil misses it, but Wim is very intrigued by this. The bus reaches the school and there are droids directing the kids to class. Wim notices the girls again, and they're getting talked to by one of these security droids as he walks into the school. We then see Wim in class is drawing on some sort of future Etch-a-Sketch thing on his desk. The undersecretary notices it and Wim clears it. Also, in this scene, the droid that is teaching the class is talking about currency and financial things, which will probably be important later. The undersecretary says that their career assessment tests are tomorrow, which is a test to basically decide what they do with the rest of their lives. Wim gets asked what he wants to do, and he says that he wants to protect people from danger, to which he gets laughed at, and the droid teacher says that that isn't a career, but what the safety droids are for. Neil and Wim talk to each other after school about the test, and Neil says that he can't believe Wim basically said he wanted to be a Jedi. The conversation ends with Wim asking Neil if he wishes he could do something exciting, to which Neil responds, like what? And then we cut to the two girls on the speeder again. The girls are racing through the city and end up having their bike break down after getting it scraped up by two of the buses. And then they end up needing to walk back the rest of the way. Wim and Neil are walking back, and Neil says goodbye and good luck for the test tomorrow as he heads into his house where he's greeted by his family. This was a pretty good moment because it shows again that Wim feels like he's rather alone in his home life. He sees Neil with his family and definitely feels bad because he doesn't have that to go home to. We then go to the girls working on the speeder and learn that the girls' names are Fern and KB. Some kids pull up on another speeder and make fun of Fern and KB's speeder, and then they zoom off calling them losers. Fern gets home, and we get to see that while Fern is definitely a troublemaker, her mother is also definitely very hard on her in a sort of passive-aggressive sense to push her to be the best in the school. We then go to Wim studying, and that's when his dad gets home. Wim is stressed about the test tomorrow and asks his dad if he can tell him a story to help him sleep like his mother used to. His dad says that he can't because he's too busy, and then says that Wim is too old for bedtime stories. This again just shows that even when Wim's dad is home, he still feels alone. In the next scene, Wim misses the bus in the morning because he overslept. He yells to Neil that he's going to take a shortcut, and then goes and takes a small speeder out of the garage. He takes the path that he saw the girls go through the day before, and it does not go as smoothly for him. It is a rough path, and he gets smacked by trees and brush and mud and all sorts of nature. He ends up falling into a crack in the ground and is unable to climb out of it. He shouts for help before finding a circular metal structure in the ground by accident. He clears it off a bit before a security droid spots him and tells him he's out of school and that isn't allowed. He gets sent to detention, where Fern sits next to him after a little bit. In this scene, we get to see that Fern likes to mess with people and tell lies and stories. And then Wim's dad comes out, and Wim explains to his dad that he thinks he found a Jedi temple out in the woods. His dad basically tells him to stop with the Jedi nonsense and that he has to get every single answer correct on the test in order to pass now. And Fern seems very interested by what Wim found in the woods, and Wim tries to play it off very poorly. Wim goes and finds Neil and takes him out to the spot in the woods. They attempt to climb down the hole and end up just falling into it again. They find the structure again and find out that Fern and KB have already been trying to dig it up. The kids bicker for a little bit before Fern gets Wim and Neil to start digging out the structure by messing with them some more. At this time, Wim's dad gets home and notices that Wim is missing as well. The kids end up getting the structure to open up, leading deeper into the ground. They hear someone coming, and it turns out it's Wim's dad looking for him out in the woods. They all head deeper into the structure and find an old droid, and then they accidentally flip a lever, which closes the door and locks them all in. Wim still thinks that this is a Jedi temple, and he goes around on his own and finds a different section. The girls and Neil find a place to turn the power back on and do so. Wim then sees a bunch of buttons light up, and he finds out that this isn't a temple, but a buried ship. He ends up pushing one of the blinking buttons out of curiosity, and that starts the ship and it begins to fly up. The kids race to the door to get out, but it's far too late at that point. The ship is already in the air. Wim's dad sees them and shouts to Wim. They shout back and forth as the ship starts to right itself and turns to leave, all while Wim's dad just can do nothing but watch. They go past the barrier of the planet and go into orbit. They end up in space and see the stars for the first time, as the barrier blocks the view of the stars normally. The ship then goes into hyperspace while following the autopilot and jumps into the next destination of this adventure. Overall, I really like this episode. It's the start of a simple adventure story, and it feels really refreshing to have something that isn't trampling lore or trying to force a character to be the most powerful in the universe for no reason, or any of that. It's a simple adventure for a younger audience, and this episode sets it up pretty well. But with all that said, that's all I got for this one. Hope you all have a great day, and God bless.